hell we think when we do something like that.
What's up, fight fans? This is the Combat Connection live on the Cageside Press social media platforms. I'm Brett Cagle. That's Eddie Law. And we have a loaded show for you today. First, let's get into the fights from last weekend. UFC Fight Night London. Sean Brady put on a dominant performance, Eddie, against former world champion Leon Edwards in his home backyard. From beginning to end, really outclassed the former champion. It was an absolute dominant performance. We'll go over the statistics here real quick. 221 total strikes for Sean Brady, 23 for the former champion Leon Edwards, 5 takedowns for Brady, which got him good for control time up to 11 minutes. This one was one-sided from the get-go, Eddie, and I was honestly astonished that the judges did not score a single round 10-8. When you look at 221 strikes compared to 23, I don't think I've ever seen that from a guy coming off a championship loss who still looks to be in the prime of his career. Obviously, couldn't get it done this weekend against Philadelphia's Sean Brady. What were your thoughts, Eddie?
Leon Edwards being Leon freaking Edwards. Like, you would think after he became a champion, he got that shit out of his head. Like, shouldn't need to have someone tell you, you got to pull that shit out of the fire. Like, you shouldn't need that every goddamn time you fight. But and honestly, it bugs the hell out of me because we know how good Leon is. Like, the dude didn't lose for for years, right? Even though we all knew he's very beatable, it's almost like I don't know, like mind f like his opponents and they're thinking I don't know, whatever it was. But either way, it's just Leon. It's a Leon being freaking Leon. That's what it is. And it's just, I think, look, did you know that you and I knew this was going to happen?
Yeah, we both called Sean Brady. He just has looked too lackadaisical. Even in the fight with Kamaru Usman that he won, he lost 4 rounds leading up to that head kick knockout there that finished that fight. And then obviously he did well in the match with Kobe Covington, did well in the match with Kamaru Usman. But you could argue that those guys are past their prime. When he goes up against guys who are on the up and coming like Bilal Muhammad and Sean Brady, 2 dominant performances go the other direction. Eddie, at one point in time, a lot of people thought that this was a guy who was going to be historically great when we look back at the welterweight division. Now that I look back on this, I don't think this guy beats Matt Hughes. I don't think this guy comes close to George St. Pierre. And even when you go back to yesteryear and look at guys like Pat Miletich, they just had a different motor than what we saw from Leon Edwards last weekend. The lack of urgency and, him it seems like he settles in fights, like he's content. Can you explain what he was doing in that 3rd round, Eddie? Shooting for a takedown himself after being controlled on the ground for 4 minutes and 40 seconds the previous round, going for a takedown against a guy who's out grappling you, and you're supposed to be the world-class kickboxer. I was really confused with the game plan from the beginning from Leon Edwards, and it seems like, we talk about the guy saying bring it out of the fire and them trying to motivate him and stuff. Like you're saying, you can't be motivated like that every time. It's just exhausting on your corner for them to have to go in there and act like they're picking up the emotional toll for you. It's just too much, and I want to see him maybe down in an Apex card fighting a guy who's on the up and coming. Maybe if Carlos Prates gets a win or 2 or something like that. But Leon Edwards with 2 very back-to-back disappointing performances from him.
Yeah, I mean, we probably won't see him at the Apex right away. We'll probably see him on the main card of a pay-per-view somewhere just for the fact that he gets paid probably gets paid too much to be on an Apex card. But either way, shit. I mean, it's the same thing with when guys get desperate / hurt, especially desperate, they try dumb shit, right? I mean, Conor McGregor gets hurt by Nate and shoots for the legs, and then Nate's going, "Oh no, you're a wrestler now. Okay." Like, no, you're not. So, I think he was just desperate at that point, just desperation, like do something different. Because nothing that Leon did or tried, his game plan was complete garbage. It didn't work. I mean, not garbage, but it wasn't going to work against a guy like Sean Brady. And so I think we've seen the last of Leon fight for a title. We've seen the last of Leon, in my opinion, being a contender for a title. Mm-hmm. I would love for him to prove me wrong because Leon, he's not a bad person, right? And when he's on, he's fun to watch. I mean, the fight against Nate, up until he got slapped at the end and got rocked, he probably, Nate should have done that earlier, but up until that point, he was looking really good. So it just what I don't like is people calling him a fluke because then on the title win, right? Because then he came back and beat him, majority decision, but still beat him. And then he took care of Kobe Covington, which to me, if I'm Kobe, I am pissed today. I am pissed, right? Because he got beat up by Leon Edwards. He ran out the cage crying, and right out the back door into a getaway car and shit. Because we know how Kobe does. He loses, he cries and runs away. And I'm not. That's on video, folks. You can't even play with me. You can literally go see Kobe running almost in tears to get out. Do not come for me for that bullshit. But either way, no. But let me tell you this. It's a terrible. It's that loss for Kobe is like it's rotten cheese now. It is what it is. Now, in terms of Sean Brady, he did what we knew he was going to do. He was expected to do this, and he did what to do. So now we got to wait and see what they give him next.
So when I look at this historically, like I think Bilal wrote the blueprint for how to beat Leon Edwards. Make him fight off the back foot. Don't let him come forward on you. Mix in the grappling with some hands. Sean Brady, who is not known for his striking, was even able to land well on Leon Edwards on the feet. He might have actually won some of those striking exchanges. Yeah. When I look at how well, I'm not going to say Brady overperformed in this matchup, but he performed highly and up to the potential that we all had for him. It reminded me, I know it wasn't a championship performance, but it reminded me a little bit of Cody Garbrandt versus Dominic Cruz, to where you have a guy in Dominic Cruz who's the former champion, or at the time was champion, and somebody goes in there out of nowhere and just outclasses him to the point where you're like, wow, is this the new guy? And that's what Sean Brady did from a grappling perspective this weekend. But when I look at Leon Edwards, is he going down the same trajectory that we once saw Tyrone Woodley go down?
No, it's not that cringy. Come on.
I mean, it's not yet, but
no, if Leon comes out with a rap song, then it's like,
no. Yeah, I just mean the losses.
No.
Once he lost the belt, he never even really got back into legitimately competitive contests. It just kept sliding down the rankings. Is that something you see happening to Leon Edwards too?
Oh yeah. No, I mean, that's what I see from him. Not in the same, not as bad as Tyrone, because Tyron Woodley legitimately thought he was still championship caliber. I think, in fact, he still does, I believe. So I think Leon's the other way. He's never been that kind of guy that was high on himself at all. He's not a guy that's been talking about, he's like confident in himself and has a high self-esteem. Never seemed to be that way, right? Or at the very least, we don't see it because he's so quiet. That being said, what else is there to do for him, right? Like just keep fighting, get checks, get paid or whatnot. If anything, I'm disappointed in Sean Brady. This fight should have ended in the first round. In the first round, Sean Brady should, in my opinion, if he comes out and starts him in the first round, who isn't saying, "Fuck it, title shot"? Who is not? A lot of
people are. That was my next question. We've got Shavkat, sitting on the wings. Does he jump Shavkat? Does he fight Shavkat? What's next for Sean Brady?
No, he doesn't jump Shavkat at all. He jumps him if he beats the dog shit out of Leon Edwards in the first round and beats him. The TKO submission doesn't matter, but takes him out. It took him 4 rounds to do it. 4 rounds, okay? 4 rounds to break Leon's will, because you don't beat Leon by you just beat Leon. You just got to beat his mind. That's it, and that's what he did. By that 4th round, like you said, or 3rd round, he was shooting. He shot in. That mentally defeated. That was it.
Yes, exactly. That showed me right then that he was mentally checked out. He was not in that fight anymore.
He was done. So if I'm Leon, sit back, chill out. 6 months, take a fight at the end of the year. But get your mind together. Get a sports psych, whatever you got to do to give yourself one last shot at making something happen. Because if he doesn't come back and get a win, that's 3 in a row. And I'd love to say, former champion, benefit of the doubt. I don't think Leon's in that category.
And we've seen it with Woodley. We've seen it with Tony Ferguson. The slide in the back half of their careers for fighters 170 pounds or less is significant. So that's definitely something to look at. As far as who I want to see Leon Edwards fight, I mentioned Carlos Pratas. I believe he has an upcoming contest. If he wins that, then maybe we see that. But I saw something online. What about Jorge Masvidal? If you bring Masvidal back, those guys had bad blood. You're kind of trying to build Leon back and get him a win. Do something like you did with Conor and Cowboy Cerrone. Throw him, not a layup per se, but you give Masvidal a chance to come back against a guy who's not a grappler, who's not looking to take him down. And it's something that the fans have been wanting to see for quite amount of time.
That's the fight for Leon, because you can definitely put that on a paper with the kind of heat he's going to get. Now, regardless of how Jorge shows up, who knows what he's been doing, right? But regardless of that, the story's already there. 3-piece and this, and what is 3-piece in the soda? The talk back and forth. I mean, I remember that video like it was yesterday. Leon, Jorge walked out with his hands behind his back and stuff. Leon had his hands up, and that's why Jorge went pa 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 pa. And it was fun. So the story's there. If Leon wants a big fight next, I'm calling Dana like, hey man, give me Jorge. If he's not ready for whatever it is to that, if he's willing to wait till at least International Fight Week, that range, give us a main event in a city or give us a pay-per-view spot. But I think that's the fight.
Yeah. And for Brady, do you think he actually could face Shavkat? We've been hearing Shavkat might have some injury problems, and that's why he got passed up by Jack Della Maddalena. Do you think that they just wait for Shavkat to come back and then have an obvious number one contender fight between the two? Or do you think they choose one or the other?
The UFC waits for nobody, clearly, right? Mm-hmm. So if Shavkat's not ready, and regardless of whoever wins, unless it's somehow like a barn burner, which I don't see it happening, I'm pretty sure that fight's going to be slow and boring. Like I think you look at Sean Brady if Shavkat's not ready, but if Shavkat's ready, again, Sean Brady, you wanted to impress somebody first or second round at most. It took you 4 rounds to beat him, to finish him. Should not have been that bad with how we know the calibers are, right?
Yeah.
And that's all respect to Leon and Sean Brady. I'm not trying to shit on Sean Brady. What I'm saying is you needed to prove something and you didn't.
And it honestly says more about Leon because he looked so bad that we're saying that Sean,
should have destroyed him.
Yeah, but Sean looked so good. Best performance of his career. One more thing before we move on to the next fight. Do you think the loss to Bilal Muhammad has just reinvigorated Sean Brady and put him on a path of success? Do you think that was something that he needed early in his career to build upon for the future, confidence-wise?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I don't think he needed it. I don't. Sean Brady seems like the kind of guy who's just like kind of self-motivated right now. Was it a help? Sure, it helped, right? But let's look at the loss now. If we're honest, it's a pretty damn good loss to have.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I'm saying.
Looking at his let me pull up his record real quick. Looking at his record, right? Loses to Bilal in 2022. All right, he's now Brady's beaten Kelvin Gastelum, Gilbert Burns and Leon Edwards, right? So 3 in a row. Cool. What has Bilal done since that 2022 fight? Okay, let me pull it up. Here we go. Gilbert Burns, Leon Edwards for the title, and now he's fighting Jack Della Maddalena. It's not bad, right? No. Not bad at all.
And it could potentially set up a title rematch down the road between somebody and Sean Brady, who's looked better since then and improved. So maybe there's some more interest there in a rematch.
I'll tell you this: if like I said, if Shavkat's not ready, I would say the end of the year, right? If Shavkat's not ready, he's injured, whatever. I call Sean. I'm like, hey man, you want to fight? What's up?
Yeah,
let's do it because if you're healthy, let's do it. Otherwise,
in a great position with the company. One thing that I did see, though, I don't know if you saw this, Eddie. Buckley called him out on, I believe, either Twitter or Instagram. Buckley was saying that he wants to fight him. I want Buckley to get a big fight, no doubt about it. I'm a really big Buckley guy from St. Louis, Midwest. He's explosive, great striker. I want to see Buckley fight Kamaru Usman, and that's the fight to me that needs to be made. I don't think Sean Brady at this point can risk it against a big, strong athlete like Buckley. If you can't get him to the ground, you're now in some trouble if you're Sean. So that's a risky fight if you're now ranked in the top 3 here come today when they come out with the official rankings. So I don't want to see him fight Buckley next, in my opinion.
You don't want to see Brady fight Buckley?
No.
I don't either. Those are 2 contenders. Give Buckley somebody else. But give Buckley
Usman is what I'm thinking.
I mean, you could, but if I'm Usman, I want bigger fish than that.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to say a title shot with someone that's up there for a title. I don't know. Heard some things. It's not like it's gonna be Usman, or the other way. It's not gonna be Buckley for Usman, but things will change. But as far as Buckley goes, no, I want him to wait in line. Like I don't like I know he's in a hurry, but like I would love to have like a line where it's like Sean Brady get Buckley somebody else. Buckley wins that fight. Cool. He's in that. He's next. Cool. Right. But I would hate to kill off other contenders with contenders. I hate that. Like I get it. Yeah. The best fight the best. Great. But there's definitely other guys you could definitely use a gatekeeper here or there or something to keep your contenders going. Because let's say Buckley fights Brady. Buckley wins. No one's gonna be like, yeah, Brady should have a title. No one's gonna say that.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe you throw Gilbert Burns to Buckley or something like that. And I kind of want to give him a former title challenger, a former champion. I want to prove, how good Buckley is in his next fight. But at the same time, I don't want Brady to go in there and risk, the opportunity that he earned in the position that he put himself in here as of last weekend.
Yeah, Brady needs to be patient. Just be patient. See how it shakes out after Jack Della. And then if a fight comes up that you like and you want to take it, meanwhile you wait for whatever happens with Shavkat, great.
Mhm.
Otherwise, I'm sure the UFC will call and be like, hey, Shavkat's out. He's still hurt.
Yeah.
What's up?
So we go from a historic fight to one that we're going to forget pretty quickly. Carlos Ulberg and Jan Blachowicz, two ranked light heavyweights, went to battle this weekend. This was a very close fight, but it was not one necessarily that we're going to remember for a long time. A very tactical performance, kickboxing from the outside. Carlos Ulberg was able to outstrike Jan Blachowicz 75-58 in terms of total strikes on the night. The jab was working, the leg kicks were working, but it's not a performance anybody's going to write home about necessarily. Eddie, what did you make of this? I think that Carlos Ulberg, this was a fight where he should have made a statement against a former champion who's in his 40s. Jan Blachowicz came in there to win. Credit to Jan. But he did not shoot any takedowns. There was no control time for either fighter. And this was really a sparring kickboxing match for 15 minutes, in my opinion. What do you think?
No, exactly that. It's exactly that. If there was nothing, neither one of them separated themselves worth a damn at all. And meanwhile, here's the thing. I know Jan lost, but I give Jan more credit than Carlos. I honestly, 100%. Carlos had way more to gain from this fight than Jan. Didn't go for it. And I don't mean he didn't fight. What I'm saying is he didn't go for the win. He didn't go to try and prove. You don't get a matchup against a former champion, right? And think, oh, I could just, touch a little calf here and there, a little leg kick here and there, jab him in the face a couple times, cool, whatever. I'll stall a little bit. Like, you don't get that kind of fight. Think, I'm going to do that and get a title shot. Yeah. No, fuck no. You go in there, you're like, I got to take his fucking head off.
Yep.
Straight up. And so there was no statement made by Carlos. If anything, Jan made a statement. I'm 42 and young boy couldn't beat me. Bigger than me, taller than me, longer than me, supposedly a better striker than me, and couldn't put me out.
Okay? And according to guys on Verdict MMA, the app, the scoring app, Verdict MMA, they had Jan Blachowicz winning the first and third rounds. So, I mean, I don't know. Some people had differing scorecards. I'll give it to Carlos just because he outlanded him, but it wasn't like either one of them did anything significant in this fight. I was really disappointed kind of with the output from Carlos Ulberg. We saw him when he went in there against Menefield. Now, maybe that was more of Menefield's mistake going in over aggressively, getting caught, and then not being able to protect himself. But he got him out of there in, I believe, like 8 seconds in his last performance in St. Louis. Or in one of his last performances in St. Louis. So Carlos Ulberg picks up the win. Are you interested to see who he's going to fight next? If it was up to me, I want to see him fight Yuri Prochazka because I want to see him fight someone that's going to make him fight. I don't want to see these tactical kickboxing exchanges back and forth where no one's really in danger. I want Yuri Prochazka to go in there and make this guy fight. And that's the only guy in the division right now who I know is going to take it to him and has that kill or be killed mindset and is going to make Ulberg decide whether he wants to be in there for the long haul or not. I think that's the test that Carlos Ulberg needs. What do you think?
I don't care.
Yeah.
I didn't give a fuck. Carlos fucked that up. Like when he came into the UFC, I was excited. I was like, dude, this kid can fucking fight. He can strike. Mm-hmm. Let's go. Right? All he has to do, not all, I know it's difficult. But just get yourself in the wrestling room, just sprawl and brawl type of deal, or definitely learn some grappling and everything, right? But he fucking just killed any enthusiasm I have for his career at all. I do not care. As a fan, as a journalist, different. Totally into it. So as a fan, fuck him. Don't care. Put him in the Apex and the fucking in the prelims. I do not care. If that's how he's gonna fight, I don't want to see it. I don't. But as a journalist, Yuri Prochazka is the only guy because Yuri's not gonna take a back foot. Yuri's gonna be in his face the whole time. You know what I mean? He's gonna make him strike. He's not gonna let him just do little bullshit, little baby leg kicks and shit, and then run off or clinch or just lateral the whole time. No. Like Yuri's gonna make a fight, so that's the fight to make if you're gonna give him a fight. But as a fan, I couldn't tell you one person that gives a damn.
No, and this was the statement for the casual fans, right? The people who don't tune in every single weekend for the Apex cards, who don't necessarily know the guys outside the top 15. This is your statement-making matchup, and wasn't able to go out there and get it done last weekend. Eddie just I don't know really with Carlos Ulberg. He shows high potential at times, but then at other times goes in there and fights cautiously. It's kind of concerning for his career, but we'll have to see what the future holds for him. He's a very athletic guy, though, nonetheless.
Some people take that what do you call it? Some people take that first loss really hard, and it derails them. and some people take it and kind of skyrocket. Carlos just took it safe the whole rest of the way. I mean, we look at his first. Was a Kennedy. Thank you, Kennedy. I don't know how to say the last name. Sorry, folks. Sorry, man. Since then, he took Fabio Charant to decision. Last time I said Fabio Charant, someone goes, who exactly? He knocked out Tefan, which understandable. He knocked out Nicolay, which understandable. He knocked out Irapateria, which my toddler did too. And cool. Like, he's got finishes. A lot of finishes, great, right? But in terms of like when you get a matchup against like Jan, you don't even go for it. Like, you got to go for a finish there. If you knock out Jan Blachowicz, who isn't saying that he needs to get a title shot?
Exactly. And this guy's not a talker either. It's not like he makes somebody care with his mouth like Kobe Covington. He's a very soft-spoken guy. And Eddie, I don't know if you saw the backstage interview that he had after this one, but they're like, well, you're on a win streak now, Carlos. You just beat a former champion. What do you think's next? And he hinted at a title opportunity. Like, how tone deaf is no one telling this guy, like, we're not going to give you a title opportunity off of these decision point fighting wins? Like, I don't know. It's just kind of confusing. Obviously, they're going to have Ankalaev and Pereira, it sounds like, later in the year.
Likely.
Maybe you just throw him and Yuri on that same main card, and, you have an easy number one contender for fans to follow.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it goes and everything. But, Carlos definitely feels like he deserves a title shot. So we'll see.
So another fight that went to decision, this one was a welterweight contest between Kevin Holland and Gunnar Nelson. This was striker versus grappler from the beginning, Eddie. The official statistics in this one, total strikes 138-30 in favor of Holland. 3 takedowns were landed for Nelson, good for 9 minutes of control time. But I thought this one was really simple. The damage of Holland outweighed the, cage grappling and momentary takedowns of Gunnar Nelson. Kevin was even landing good things off of his back in that first round, the elbows, the up kicks, threatening submissions on Gunnar. What did you make of Kevin Holland's performance here? I want to see him fight Chidi Njokuani next, who's coming down and now gone on a 3-fight win streak. We talked about him on a previous episode here. He just fought at the Apex. 2 athletic strikers, both 6'3". I want to see that contest. I think that's a good matchup between those guys at this stage in their career. Get Kevin Holland another win, or Chidi continues and goes on to 4-0 and picks up a name like Kevin Holland. But great performance by him. I was surprised that he wasn't, submitted with 9 minutes of control time by Gunnar Nelson, but wasn't able to do the job. What did you make of Kevin Holland?
I was impressed with his defense. Like his grappling defense is got really good. I mean, he gets taken down, right? But instead of laying on his back and go, fuck, I'm going to go full guard, starts using his legs, getting his different guards, getting the half guard, switching here and there. He's throwing his legs up. He went for omoplata, I think, 3 times. On one of them, fucking Gunnar picked him up. They both fucking giggling at each other like, this is funny shit, bro.
He stopped and laughed.
They were both laughing.
Yeah.
Which is funny. So, and honestly, when you go for omoplatas and stuff like that at that point, it's not really to actually try to finish it. It's really hard to finish that in jiu-jitsu, much less MMA. But it's really a good way to get back up. It's like doing a Kimura. Very rare you finish that, right? But off your back when you get taken down, once in a while you score it or you land it. So I was impressed with Kevin's grappling. I was impressed with Gunnar being able to come back that long from that long layup and not look like a fish out of water.
Yeah.
I would venture to say if he hadn't been so inactive, he probably would have been final submission in this one. But you got to give it to Kevin Holland to be able to survive and everything. That being said, I don't want Kevin Holland. I think Kevin Holland's got to be a matchup guy. I don't think he cares about a title anymore. You know what I mean? In my opinion, I don't think he cares. He might just because it's bigger money, right? But if you're going to give him a striker, 185, if you're going to give him an all-around martial artist, MMA fighter, 170, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kevin's got to stay at 170. He looks much better than he does at 185.
Yeah. But I mean, in matchup-wise, if you're going to give him a striker, 185. I want Kevin Holland without having to cut ridiculous weight, fully and bigger, just ready to go. Everything, all the juice.
You wouldn't want to see him fight Chidi.
I don't give a fuck, dude. Honestly, anybody. No, Chidi at 170?
Yeah, at 170, Chidi.
No, yeah. That's fine. No. Yeah. Hear me out. A guy that can grapple, get takedowns, everything, 170, all day. Let's fucking do it for Kevin Holland. If you're going to give him a grappler at 185, eat shit. I don't want to see that ever.
Yeah, that's
ever.
what I'm saying.
Okay, Kevin Holland under somebody that's going to be 30, 40, 50, sometimes almost 40 pounds heavier than, or let's say 30 pounds heavier than him. I don't want to see that at all. You know what Kevin Holland does with a 185 Gunnar Nelson? Fuck all. He does nothing.
We saw with Brunson when he fought guys in the past on his first run up at 185. He's been controlled on the ground by a lot of guys at middleweight. No. This is the perfect home, in my opinion, for him. I think that's a great point. Welterweight's the future for Kevin Holland. But it was good to see him get back in the win column this weekend.
Oh, had he lost, we'd be talking about him probably getting cut.
Yeah, really, especially with the attitude problems we've got, or not problems, but things that we've seen outside the cage and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily is kind of his own worst enemy at sometimes. But moving along here, someone who, is not going to be fighting in the UFC again. We talked about, maybe Kevin Holland getting cut with a loss, but, unfortunately a loss happened for Molly McCann this weekend, fighting Thanara on, I think it was 11 days notice, Eddie. Thanara was able to come in there, get the submission in the first round. She looked great. I mean, honestly made a name for herself off of Molly McCann. The grappling looked tremendous. Almost had a guillotine from Mount. Ends up getting the submission. What did you make of her performance? And obviously this is the end of the road for Molly McCann. She had some great moments like the knockout over Carolina when she, ran around the cage with the howler head. That was a great moment, her and Patty. But, she just struggled against these grapplers, got submitted by Storley Aranco, got beat up on the ground by Jillian Robertson as well. Just couldn't figure it out in that run and make it to the top. Erin Blanchfield kind of really started, the downward spiral there. What do you make of Molly McCann's career, and do you think this was the right time to call it quits?
I want all due respect to Molly McCann. I'm not saying this to be an asshole. I'm not saying this to put her down. I'm just being real. Okay, this is me, journalist, not me. When I say as a fan, I'm playing through the mind of like a casual, right? Like the assholes that we all sit with. Now I don't fucking do it anymore because I can't stand fucking fans. But like the fans that go to the UFC events and like, stand them up after like 2 seconds being on the ground, those fucking assholes. I'm putting that hat on. I'm being an asshole when I say as a fan. This is just straight up. Hey, what up, bro? This is straight up as just a journalist and as a human being. Molly was never going to be a champion in the UFC. She was very vanilla, right? What did she have on her side? Aggressiveness, heat, emotion, hard hitting. We saw her knock chicks out. Yeah. She had that going for right. She's changed this thing recently in the last 3-4 fights where she is very calm, which I respect. And I know it works, totally works, right? But something is not working with that. Something didn't work with that new mindset, with that new attitude and everything. So she comes into this fight, mind you. As soon as I heard about Alexa Thainara, I didn't know anything about her. I looked at I was outside of DWC. I saw her on there on Contender Series.
Yeah,
with the decision, great. I looked up her other fights. I saw a couple things stood out. One, she subs everybody. Two, chicks withdraw from fights with her. They pull. They don't. It's not to get hurt. It's not. They just see how like the kind of shit she can do. They're like, oh fuck that. Okay. But the only annoying ass thing about Thainara, and it's actually going to work in her favor, is that bullshit she does. You go, yeah, with the fucking, the arms, yeah. I'm like, dude, come on, man. That's just weird. But it's going to work for her because that's a good marketing strategy.
Yeah, she acts like a crazy animal or something.
Exactly. Yeah. She's just a little psycho. Like, to me, I could give a shit. I could care less about that. To me, it's a little annoying. But either way, as soon as I saw what Thainara could do, because I watched a few clips too, I'm like, oh, Molly's fucked.
Yeah.
It's over. So, all due respect, look, I respect Molly McCann immensely. She was given a chance when she probably shouldn't have got one, if we're honest, okay? She shouldn't have got one, and she did, right? And she fucking ran with it, and it was awesome. And now she's transcended this whole thing. She can be an ambassador to the UFC. She can go do whatever she wants in Liverpool.
I think she has a show. I was listening to someone say that she has some type of like reality show on British television over there or something.
Already? Just
recently aired.
So it's been going.
Yeah, recently.
So our attention wasn't on the fight completely.
I guess so.
I mean, again, short notice. Switch of opponent.
I'd have to look that up, but I mean,
it was
MMA Guru was the one talking about it. He said that they had some type of reality show with her, and so I was like, oh, okay, then maybe she wasn't necessarily all in, but take that with a grain of salt.
MMA Guru, I'm surprised MMA Guru even talked about it. That guy hates female fighters.
Yeah, he hates
everybody, mind you. That guy hates everybody, but still.
Yeah. But we also had another British fighter go down. Jordan Vucinic loses by submission to Chris Duncan on this card. Eddie, Chris Duncan is really coming on and making statements. He's got some sneaky submissions from the bottom, was able to get Vucinic with a guillotine in this one. We saw him previously get a guillotine and send his opponent unconscious while he was on top of him, and the ref had to pull him off, if you remember that one from last year. Chris Duncan also has one-shot knockout power like we saw with his knockout win over Charlie Campbell on the Contender Series. I really think that Chris Duncan can be a contender here moving forward. I thought this was a statement win against somebody who European fans really were behind in Vucinic, the former Cage Warrior standout over there. How highly did you rank this win for Chris Duncan?
Oh, man. First of all, your arms are too short to box, motherfucker. Is Rick. Rick's always bitching about my hat.
Yeah.
Him and who else? Eric Nixon. Anyone with a hat. I'm assuming Rick's a bald old white dude, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I'm just saying. I don't know. You tell me, Rick. You got a hat on? Anyway, all in fun, Rick. With Chris, that guy's dangerous because he has a Y, dude. He's had a Y forever. The thing about his mom, dude. Like,
that story was nuts.
It's crazy. And Patrick, shout out Patrick McCory, one of our teammates. Asking that question was perfect. You know what I mean? Yeah, bullshit, Rick. Anyway, but freaking it was a big win for him. He had plenty on the line in terms of like momentum and everything. Because he's not a talker, right? But he's got the Braveheart thing going. It works out pretty well. So big win for him, honestly.
Yeah, I was really impressed. We'll have to see what the future holds for Chris Duncan. Got a lot to talk about today on the show, Eddie. Is there anything else from the prelims that you want to point out to fight fans that they maybe missed over the weekend? Any fights there that caught your attention? Yeah,
don't jump off the Morgan Charrier bandwagon, okay? Him and Paul Hughes should be in the UFC 100%, but UFC picked up Morgan Charrier and not Paul Hughes, which made no sense to me. But Morgan's the dog. Like that dude, he'll be back, right? He's gonna grow from this loss and everything, so it's gonna be cool. Good for Nathaniel Wood, keeps moving up and everything, and good for him. What was the other fight? Christian Leroy Duncan. Bye. I don't care anymore. I'm done with you. And then Kaylin, how you say the last name? Kaylin's last name?
Which fight are we talking about?
Kaylin Luran.
Let me check here. I'm not great with pronunciations here.
No, you said it before, Luran. Like I said it wrong. You said it right last time. Leron.
Callahan Loughran.
Jesus Christ! Now that's a different way that anyone else said it. All right, fuck it. That dude. All right, he's legit. I don't care what anyone says. He's legit as fuck. And I know a lot of people were thinking that Nathan Fletcher won that fight. No.
Yeah.
No way. No, that was no matter who won, it would have been whatever. Cool, right? But Kaylin was the shit. That was fun to watch.
Yeah, he's a powerhouse for sure. Another guy to watch out for moving forward, young contender. But Eddie, we had a lot of news. Some good news, some bad news over the weekend. First, let's touch on the unfortunate death of George Foreman, former two-time heavyweight champ, Olympic gold medalist. Fought guys like Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. His fight with Ron Lyle, if you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It is the greatest heavyweight slugfest in the history of the sport. Both men hit the canvas 2 times. Howard Cosell on the call from Caesar's Palace back in the day when that was a big boxing venue. George Foreman is a legendary guy, from the grills, from his philanthropism in Christianity, to making a second comeback and becoming the oldest heavyweight champion in the history of the sport. Eddie, what are your lasting memories of George Foreman? And obviously this was unfortunate, but the man lived a great life.
He did great. He did a lot of different things outside of boxing, right? And so it's like, but it's one of those things where everyone's like, oh, it's unfortunate. Yeah, it sucks when someone passes, but the man lived a full life, dude. You got to hand it to him. He did a lot with his time. Like, we don't have a lot of time completely on this. We don't have a lot of time on this earth, dog. So, when you got to make it, you got to take advantage of it as much as you can. Mm-hmm. But outside of that, man, like, legendary in boxing and entrepreneurship and what he did outside of all those things, everything social and everything. He's one of those stories you kind of just hope the future generations read about, right? The great boxers, the great fighters, the great the great ambassadors for the sport, especially. So, yeah, it sucks, but rest in peace. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, as I was thinking about this, it was like, what's one phrase or word to describe? He's an American hero. You go and you win the gold medal for your country. You fight the greatest boxer of all time in Muhammad Ali, or at least of your generation. Then you defy the odds and come back in the era of Mike Tyson, and you knock out Michael Moore, fight Evander Holyfield in another fight that was great, fantastic, all action. I mean, George Foreman is a legendary guy, and if you haven't seen the knockout over Michael Moore, Bruce Buffer's brother, Michael Buffer, was on the call that night and has, in my opinion, the greatest announcing boxing call of all time. It says, once again, heavyweight champion of the world, George Foreman, and he's sitting there kneeling in the corner, looking up to God, like, how could this be possible? It was just a great moment and one of the greatest moments in the history of boxing. So rest in peace to George Foreman, and great life.
Yeah, no, look, I think the funny thing about George is he named all his sons George.
Yeah,
that is my favorite thing. I'm like, and I never got an answer as to why, and I don't want one. I don't care, but it always made me laugh. And then you look at his career, starting it off. I mean, he was a gold medalist in the 70s, 60s,
yeah,
something like that, 60s. I know he Mexico City 60. Fuck, I read about it too, like literally not long ago. But either way, again, very accomplished, good dude. Is what it is, man. And you kind of hope that for all the good that he did, people take that example.
He's kind of like the DC of boxing, if you think about it. DC loses to the greatest of our sport, and then he's on the commentary booth as a beloved figure. Obviously not the same level of entrepreneur, but
sure.
Called the fights on HBO with Jim Lampley, just like DC does with Joe Rogan here today. And a lovable figure just like that. But we are going to move along to some news that we had in an interview with Jason Jackson over the weekend. Eddie, we've been talking about the PFL for a while. I've had the opportunity to interview multiple people coming over from Bellator to the PFL in their world tournament this year. But Jason Jackson, when we had this interview last week, I was really surprised with some of the displeasure that he had towards the promotion. I think that it is a glaring black eye on kind of the behind the scenes of how things are going down with the PFL. And it's not necessarily ran like a fight promotion. It's ran kind of like a Fortune 500 business that may be failing. So we're going to take a little bit of a listen here to what Jason Jackson has to say from our interview that you guys can find on our YouTube page. Talk a little bit about his fight with Ramazan Kurmagomedov, and then he kind of goes downhill and talks about how he thought he was going to get a championship rematch. They didn't, get his visa ready for him, and he had to do that himself, which was frustrating to him. So he feels like he did the promotion a favor. Here's Jason Jackson. Impressed with him as a fighter, and would you like to get that victory back at some point? And were you a little surprised he wasn't in the tournament as well?
I'm surprised that I'm not fighting him for the belt. That's what I was told, but based off the favor that I did for Bellator.
Oh, so you actually thought that maybe you'd be getting a championship rematch this year instead of being in the tournament?
Exactly.
Is that what you actually would have preferred?
That's what I was told, of course.
Well, I've interviewed some other guys, and they were saying that they liked the guaranteed money and the guaranteed activity from the tournament and things like that. But you were right there on the cusp of a title, and you were the champion. That was a highly competitive fight. A lot of people wanted to see that again. So it was confusing to me why that didn't get rebooked. Did you ever get a real reason to why that wasn't the direction they went in?
Well, like I said, I was promised, things don't go according to plan. But like I said, I kind of felt like I was doing a favor, actually going out there after them making a mistake with my visa. They didn't get my visa straightened out for me to go to Ireland, and I still find a way to get it done and got out there late. And still made way, still did fulfill my obligation. And, I was told that, hey, for you doing that and saving the show, definitely.
So, Eddie, you hear from the former champion. That was a really highly competitive contest with Ramazan Kurmagomedov. What do you make of the treatment of the fighters in the PFL? You've kind of been complaining about it for a while. What do you think?
Not surprised, right? Not surprised. Like, I know a lot of people are just like, well, the UFC does this and that, whatever. The UFC does, like, we've seen so many matchups where we're just like, oh, man, nobody wants to see this fucking title fight. It's bullshit, right? But it's like the UFC's like, do they make empty promises? Sure, sometimes, right? But this is just a glaring one from Don Davis and, Kogan and Pete Murray. Again, it's how are people supposed to take your word for shit at all when you promise them something? Hey man, you did us a solid. Look, they called him and asked him for a favor. He did the favor. He flew to freaking Dublin. He had to fix his own visa shit. By the way, how the fuck, Don? Anyway, but like, get it together, dude. Like, you hire a million people to do everything, executives for the hot dog stands on top of that shit, but you can't get someone to work on visas? What the
Vice
fuck?
President of International Relations, and we can't get visas to people.
How the fuck you got? We have a European series. We have PFL Africa. None of your fighters are fucking going anywhere without visas, dickwad. God damn. But like, and again, everyone's like, well, Don doesn't control this and that. Yes, look, I don't give a shit. If you're the boss, buck stops with you.
Dana would make sure there would have been no problem. Dana
would have been on the phone immediately.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just another fucker from the PFL. And honestly, I don't think the PFL cares. Like, it's at the point where it's just like they can talk about we pay the fighters millions of dollars, or they used to, whatever. I just don't think they give a shit about their fighters. I really don't. Like, you can't have so many the top fighters complain about you and have anyone get actually believe when you say we're fighters first. You're not. You're not fighters first. You're survival first right now because you fucking have to. Okay. Yeah. If you're not gonna give this man what you promised him, cut him loose. Let him go. All right, let him go. There's plenty of promotions these days. He can go to, best case he goes to the UFC. Right now, is he going to get paid $1 million or maybe even when he gets paid a PFL? Probably not off the bat, right? But guess what? He'll get 2-3 fights a year, right? Yeah, and stuff like that. And then you got freaking Patchy Pitbull left. He went over to the UFC. I was the other guy, Aaron Pico. It's just. I'm just waiting for Dakota to ask for her way out. I can't wait for that to happen.
What's going on? If we're sitting here not giving Jason Jackson title opportunities, are we just going to say, oh, sorry, Bellator champions, your titles don't exist anymore. And by the way, you didn't enter our tournament, so I don't know who you guys are going to fight this year. That's what I see happening. I see so little structure coming from what's, what I'm observing that I don't know if there's really a plan. I can't wait to get down there next week to ask Don what the plan is for Dakota, the plan is for the Bellator champions, because we haven't heard anything, Eddie. And we get the press releases, and they've got great fighters. You mentioned them, Patchy Mix, Johnny Eblin, Aaron Pico. What are we doing with these guys? I don't know if they've realized this. 4 months have passed this year. You did have one great card with Paul Hughes and Nurmagomedov. Since then, what have we done? We've sat and wait and watched the UFC put on event after event after event after event after pay-per-view, while you've let your fighters like Johnny Eblin, Patchy Mix, Aaron Pico, and all these guys sit. Why are they taking the first quarter of the year off every year? I don't understand it, especially with the amount of promotions they have under their umbrella.
The guy.
We don't know. There's no answer for it.
No, the guy at the wheel is blind. The
Yeah.
guy at the wheel is blind. He's hitting every bump, running into every cone. It's just, and it's we're laughing about it because it's silly as shit now, right? At first it was like, oh, they made a mistake, whatever. Then it was like, okay, they keep making the same mistake. All right, someone's got to figure that out, right? They're gonna fix it. Now we're just like, where are they gonna fuck up next? I can't wait to see it. Francis Ngannou, I hope that opt-out in his contract is real, right? Because
he has one fight left.
How much progress have you done with PFL Africa? Fucking nothing. We have heard zero about PFL Africa. Okay, at this rate, the UFC is going to beat them to Africa. This is what's going to happen. And Don could be like, we're the first ones to set it up. Yeah, but you didn't do shit with it.
I think they're bankrupting themselves on guys like Ngannou and Jake Paul that don't even compete for them. They're sitting there and having hype pieces. How much money do you think it cost the PFL to put out those hype pieces last year with Jake Paul? Like, oh, he signed to a professional MMA contract and all the sports, the ESPN commercials and all this stuff that they had for Jake Paul signing with the PFL. He hasn't fought. He's not even sniffing the cage with you guys. Who are you going to have him fight? It's unreal. So I don't know. I think they're just hemorrhaging money to people that are not going to necessarily compete for them, but have name value.
Yeah, again, they just don't know what's going on anymore. And the wrong guys at the wheel. Honestly, I argue you got to get rid of him, Pete, and Mike Kogan at this point. I know a lot of people have respect for Mike and everything. Mm-hmm. No. Let Ray Sefo do something. It feels like Ray's just like, all right, whatever you guys want to do, fuck it. I told you guys not to do that, but all right, do whatever. Let him have a crack at his shit.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. We've got some more topics to get to real quick before we get into our main card predictions for next weekend's UFC Fight Night in Mexico City. First thing, John Jones recently came out and said that he needs 6 months to train for Tom Aspinall. Eddie, what have we been doing the last 3 months? Because neither Jones or Aspinall hasn't competed for a long time, but Jones competed last 2-3 months ago. Where's this 6 months coming from? And do you think this is a ploy for John Jones to, I don't know. I don't know, maybe just wait and not have to face him? I don't necessarily want to say that he's ducking Tom Aspinall, but if this fight actually happens in 6 months, I have no problem with it. I kind of do like the idea of slowly marinating towards this contest. We never really sit back and smell the roses in MMA and say, hey, we got a big fight coming up and have these big media tours and all this stuff. It's been really since Conor McGregor and Khabib. Otherwise, we just kind of announce pay-per-views a month or 2 months out, and those are the fights that we get with the champions we get. What do you think of this? Do you think it's too long of a time or just the perfect amount of time for a fight of this magnitude?
No, you got to save this one for International Fight Week. I think that's what's going on. And I'm not saying that, look, Jones is not ducking anybody. If you watch how Jones has done this, especially with guys that call him out, he just goes, yeah, all right, whatever. Yeah, whatever. If you think John Jones isn't training right now, you're out of your mind. Mind you, old coked out John Jones, and he must still be the same guy, didn't do that. He just, fuck it, I just train for a little bit and go. He's up there in age and everything, different weight class and all that. I guarantee he's working, but this is just mind games, just to frustrate. Because John Jones don't have to take ultimatums from anybody, right? At all. Tom, no, not even that. Like, he owns the ball, he owns the fucking court, he owns the ref, the scoreboard, the concession stands. He gets 100% of that profit. It's John Jones' world. Tom Aspinall has to fucking bend the knee and deal with it. And that's not a disrespect towards Tom Aspinall. It's the fucking reality. Tom Aspinall calls 0 shots. Yep. All right. Until you beat the man, you're not the man. Right? That's what it is. Now, if John Jones goes, fuck, I don't want to fight, and retires, and they make Tom the outright champ, okay, great. Call your shot, champ. Do your thing. Fight whoever you want. If he goes in and finish and beat, not even finish, just beats John Jones, awesome. You're the next guy. Let's go. Call your shots. All right. But this whole where you at, John? Where you at, John? Why are you ducking me? All his followers and his fans talking about ducking and this thing. No. John Jones does not move for anybody. And that's how he's always been. This is not me saying that it's right that John Jones says, I need 6 months. It's me saying it's a mind game. Because it is going to be another, 3 months? Whenever it was July in our fight week. Yeah. I think that's when the fight's going to be. I honestly think we'll get an announcement here in the next month.
That would be fantastic. But, I don't mind it if it is 6 months. Like I'm saying, you can get the guys on First Take. You can get these big hype packages that we see in boxing sometimes put out there that, all the fight fans love. We love the embeds, the countdowns, all the hype pieces leading up. And if you can go in and get footage of John Jones and Tom Aspinall training and all things like that. And, obviously John Jones has a great training camp over there with Gordon Ryan, had Gable Stevenson in his corner last fight as well. So, that's a big one. And it's honestly probably the biggest heavyweight fight since Lesnar versus Velasquez. So speaking of that, Cain Velasquez.
Roll back.
Yeah.
Roll back. What did you say right now? That was fuck. God damn it. I lost it. I had a good point. I can't remember what the fuck it was. Whatever. No, in terms of the ESPN thing. Yeah. Yeah. If negotiations aren't going well with the UFC,
oh, that's true.
You'll notice. You'll know. Ain't gonna be no Tom on First Take. Ain't gonna be no Johnny Bones on First Take. Maybe I'm Pat McAfee because Pat McAfee doesn't really let ESPN control his guests. But maybe I'm there, right? But if things aren't going well, so there's a lot of things tied to it that I think is really interesting. Actually, a lot of fun to think about. So that's cool. But Cain Velasquez is 5 years retroactively. So he's already served almost 3. So he'll be out in less than 2, maybe even
scheduled release date of February 2027.
I don't even think he'll be there. I think he'll be out. Early 2027.
And fight fans, this is great news. Like I saw that Ariel Helwani said, and I'm not bashing Ariel at all, but he said, "Oh, this is devastating for the Velasquez family," and certainly it is when your father goes to prison. That's I'm not shedding light on that. But for what the defense was asking for, he could have got a life sentence. He could have got 25 years. He could have got 35 years. Eddie, I asked my dad, who's a practicing attorney for the last 20 years, defense attorney, I said, in cases that you've seen like this similar, what do you think? He said 12 to 20. And that's because he hit someone that was not the perpetrator, right? He hit the stepdad. And I'm not – listen, heat of passion. You got to protect your family. I'm a Cain Velasquez supporter through and through in this situation. What the other guy did was despicable and deserved ultimate consequences. And, Cain Velasquez is going to have to pay his consequences for his own actions, certainly. But this judge did a great job. He was the only judge that gave Cain Velasquez bail and then was put on the bench for his trial. The defense was asking 30 to life, or I'm sorry, the prosecution was asking 30 to life. The defense was asking to walk with probation. He met somewhere at about 5.5 with time served. Which would be the February release date of 2027. This is a slam dunk home run for me, Eddie. I think the Velasquez family has to be very happy with this outcome. He's not going to miss the high school, lives of his daughters and kids, and he's going to be around for them in their most, cherishable moments of their childhood. So I think this is really a pleasant outcome.
It was the best that you could have hoped for. I don't think it was way better than you could have hoped for. I thought it was going to be good in 10 years, maybe out in 6
at least,
right?
Yeah.
But I thought it was going to do 10 years. California is unforgiving when it comes to the laws, right? A lot of this shit. I don't know all California law, obviously, but a lot of the stuff that I've heard, that I've seen before and looked up and everything, I'm like, you guys are silly and fucking weird. But either way, I'm not even going to talk about this in a legal sense, okay? Because what Cain did was fucked up. It was wrong. It's not like he went to their house and shot him up. It's not like they came somewhere and she shot him up there, shot at him there, whatever. He might have, I'm not sure. But it was an 11-mile car chase. He's firing bullets while he's driving. There's other people around, I'm assuming, right? Like, you endangered a lot of people, okay? So had he gotten 10 plus years, would I have been mad? I would have been like, fuck, that sucks. But I get it. I get it. That being said, so I'm not gonna talk about it legally because I'm not. We can get into that back and forth, and people will be like, "Well, it's fucking wrong."
It could last all night, but yeah.
So, in terms of Cain and his family, like I read that the judge, and I was on the call, and they never actually went fucking live with this or whatever. But I was on the call, on the remote call, whatever. Nolan King, who does an amazing job from May Junkie, reporting this entire story the entire time. Nolan's one of the greatest out there. I don't care. I'll put him out there with anybody. He's a great guy too. I'm hanging out with him before, but the judge reportedly choked up, almost got teared up, whatever. And he said the biggest punishment here is that a son doesn't have his father, because Cain has clearly shown he's a good man. He's clearly shown he's a good father. I mean, clearly shown he's a good father, right?
Yeah.
Everything that we all said we would do, he fucking went and tried and did to do. He actually did it, right? So, or tried to anyway. So that's that part on its own. But he's shown remorse. He went on that podcast, I think, like 2-3 weeks ago, and said, "Hey, man, I should have done that. Whatever the punishment is, I'll take it. What are you gonna do? I have to serve my time." He's shown that he's that he's remorseful. So that definitely went in his favor.
Yeah, I think so too. And for the judge, maybe something that weighed on his mind was taking away the father of the victim in the grand scheme of things, not the victim in the case necessarily, but in the grand scheme, in the grand scope of things. Right. The victim would be punished with his father being in prison for an extended period of time. So, and also not being able to provide for the family. So I think this was a great, sentencing from the judge. I actually wouldn't mind hearing somebody interview the attorney for Cain Velasquez to see kind of how he got this when some people were expecting, obviously worse outcomes. So great job from the attorney by Cain Velasquez. Fortunate decision by the judge, and we hope all the best for the Velasquez family moving forward.
Yeah, and again, hopefully, it's a hard one to be like. I'm happy he's going to be out soon, right? But it's a hard one in the letter of the law, right? So that's the thing. It's one of those weird ones. But end of the day, everyone's happy he's going to be out soon. And then the other dude's fucking trials in June.
And we'll see what happens there, but
railroad him. But unfortunately, Cain going after him like this and shooting his stepdad by accident is going to help that other douchebag.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but Cain Velasquez 5-year prison sentence will be out February of 2027, so it looks like about 1.5 years to maybe 2 years, year and 10 months, and Cain will be back home. So great news there for the Velasquez family. But we go from a Mexican UFC legend to a UFC Fight Night card in Mexico City this weekend. Mm-hmm. Brandon Moreno, former flyweight champion, takes on former title challenger Steve Erceg. Eddie, I really like this matchup. Steve Erceg is one of the smartest fighters at 125 pounds. We saw him have a nice left hook knockout of Matt Schnell. Came up short against Alexandre Pantoja in his title match. That was very highly competitive. Lost in the last round, the 5th round, going for that takedown and getting reversed. Then in his comeback fight, gets knocked out by Kai Kara-France, an outcome that no one saw coming. Was Steve Erceg a flash in the pan, in your opinion? His biggest win at the end of the day is over Matt Schnell. Brandon Moreno's been tried and tested. I'm going to go with Moreno this weekend, but I think we're going to learn a lot about Erceg and what his potential is for the future.
Oh, man. What was that? 2 in a row? 2 losses in a row. The last time he got finished. Talking about Erceg, got knocked out.
Yeah.
This is kind of make or break, right? Not in terms of his entire career, but in terms of getting back to a title shot anytime soon, right? He's already lost to the current champion. Both men have lost to the current champion, by the way. But Erceg lost to the current champion. So, and it wasn't like it was. I mean, I can't remember. Was it a somewhat close fight? I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It was a really highly controversial decision, and people said that Erceg would have won. Okay. He went for that takedown in the 5th round, if you remember, against the cage, and then reversed. And Pantoja grinded him out for the last 2 minutes. And that
honestly, I think that won the Pantoja fight. Okay, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, based off of that, you beat Brandon Moreno. How do you not have a case?
Yep.
I mean,
and there's not the talent it's not as deep as it once was. Once was. We just got rid of Makayev. Cap is struggling. But at the same time, I think for Brandon Moreno, he had a split decision loss. I think it was to Roy Vall, and a split decision loss to Pantoja.
Yeah.
I mean, we're two really close decisions away from this still being the Brandon Moreno era, and everybody's saying that praising this guy and him being an international star. So I think that Brandon Moreno is closer to his prime than a lot of people give him credit for. And at the same time, I don't think Steve Erceg has done well at the top against some of the elite competition. And this is no disrespect to Matt Schnell, but it's easier to look good against guys like Matt Schnell and guys like David Dvorak than it is to go up there and fight guys who, are the tip of the spear of that division. And that's what he's gone against the last 2 times. Another guy who's tip of the spear is Brandon Moreno. I'm going to have to go with him this weekend. I thought that there would actually be a bigger height disadvantage in this one, but only an inch at the end of the day.
Yeah, I got Brandon as well. I got Brandon this one as well. This whole game is just it's a higher output than Steve, so we'll see. But look, man, in terms of the title picture, Brandon wins this fight. Who knows? We might get. What was that? Have they fought 3 times already? Pantoja and Moreno, or twice?
Twice, I think.
Okay, you could make a case for the trilogy. You know why? Because Kaya Sakura just fought for the title.
Yeah.
And his UFC debut and got beat. Well, he got knocked out, right?
And Brandon just beat Amir Albazi, and Albazi was the guy everybody was thinking.
Yeah, and Kai just Kaya Sakura got submitted, not knocked out. But no, you're right. Who's his name right now?
Amir Albazi.
Amir Albazi was supposed to be the next guy.
Yeah, and Brandon beat him.
Yeah. So, dude, I think. Yeah, 125 is so fucking shallow right now.
It is. And like we keep talking about Muhammad Makayev, like he was really the blood running through this division. He was the only guy who talked shit and actually got people to care. I know his antics are terrible outside the cage and can't have him fighting people, but have you ever seen heat for a 125-pound non-title fight like he had with Manel Kape? Like,
have you ever
brought interest to the division?
Have you ever seen an exciting Makayev fight?
No.
Okay. No more need to talk about
but the lead up's always great. You know, he gets you.
The lead up's awesome. I'm gonna fuck you, knock you out, bro. Fuck you up, blah 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 blah. This shit. Hugs, kisses. Oh my god, I'm gonna crotch sniff. No, that's just boring. And again, I'm not one to be like, you shouldn't wrestle in MMA. You should absolutely wrestle in MMA, but to wrestle to advance, not wrestle to fucking wrestle fuck. That's it. That's all Makayev does. So if people get upset if they want to. All right, the guy's not exciting. You're not getting it. You're not gonna come in and like. I'll push back on that whole. He's the blood of the division. He's not. Brandon Moreno was. Brandon Moreno made 125 exciting. Brandon Moreno saved 125. First of all.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
I just mean that he had a lot of hype behind him in terms of being undefeated, being young, being brash, that sort of thing.
100%. But you're just talking about the Makayev fans. They just loud as shit. That's all that was. But. Like the blood, like the division was saved by Henry Cejudo. You got to give that guy credit.
Oh,
and then Brandon Moreno made it exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Moreno made the division exciting. He's the real blood. So he loses this fight this weekend. Forget it. But that being said, Steve Erceg he's scrapped. So I like Steve Erceg fighting. That's not even a problem. Yeah. I'm expecting this to be on the feet for the most part. Hopefully. But
I am too. Yeah. And Steve Erceg's smart. I just don't necessarily know where the chin's at after the loss. He looked really like. I don't want to put too much stock into one performance, but he did not look great against Kai France.
Kai France hits like a fucking lightweight.
Yeah.
So Moreno doesn't. I'm not worried about his chin. I'm not worried about his chin.
This is an interesting fight, though, but I'm going to take the veteran Moreno. I'm going to go by decision. What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I can see that too.
Decision. Moving along down the card here, we do in the co-main event have a very interesting lightweight contest. Manel Torres returns 15-3, taking on the veteran himself, Drew Dober. I like Torres in this one. I know he just fought at that Noche card and things didn't go his way, but Drew Dober here also coming off of a loss, and he's a veteran. I think that his time has kind of passed him. Manel Torres is very good on the ground. I've actually got Manel Torres in this one by submission.
Okay. So he lost to Drew Dober lost to Silva, Jean Silva, but it was a doctor stoppage. So not great, but not bad either.
He had that big gash over his.
It was pretty rough. So Manel Torres got knocked the holy fuck out by Ignacio Bahamondes. That was a violent knockout. So I don't really put too much stock into okay, I do and I don't put the stock into how they got finished, right? That being said, Drew Dober, I'm not looking past Drew Dober at all in this fight. I like Manel Torres, but by decision. I think Drew Dober is still a force to be reckoned with, like big time. So I don't think it's gonna be any kind of finish in this fight. I think Manel Torres is gonna have to grind out 3 rounds and make it look impressive in that. Mm-hmm. But I think Manel Torres, yeah.
Yeah, and with him going against Ignacio, he's been against strikers that are elite level recently. I don't necessarily think Dober's on that same level as Bahamondes, but if Manel Torres cannot get this fight to the ground, Drew Dober probably will have the advantage in this one. I'm going to go with Torres by submission. I think that he's really sneaky on the ground. We've seen Dober get submitted in the past and struggle with grapplers. He doesn't necessarily struggle with strikers unless they're at this elite level like Gene Silva was. He's fraud checked a lot of guys in the past, and it could happen again this weekend. But I'm going to go with Torres. Are you going to go with Dober in this one?
No, Torres. It's a decision. But it won't be a finish. It'll be a decision.
Yeah. So we have another contest. This one's actually more interesting to me than a lot of them on this card. Kelvin Gastelum, former title challenger, returning against Joe Pyfer. Eddie, just look at the physiques of these guys. This reminds me of Paulo Costa versus Johnny Hendricks back in the day. Is the lamb being led to slaughter in this one? Kelvin Gastelum used to be a big puncher himself, but the biggest puncher in this division right now is undoubtedly Joe Pyfer. We just saw him get Marc-Andre Barrios out of there violently. Does he do the same thing to Kelvin Gastelum, who hasn't necessarily shown up in great shape recently?
2 things. 1, call me when Kelvin makes weight. If he doesn't make weight, I don't hear it. And I know people are like, oh, he's made weight his last couple. I don't even know if that's true, honestly. Like, he's missed weight enough times that I just don't give a shit. He's pulled out of fights enough times that I don't give a shit. That's just the problem with Kelvin Gastelum, is for some reason, dude just can't make life easy on himself and have a lifestyle change. Like, I'm not in his camp. I don't know, right? But what the fuck? You're a professional fighter, right? So anyway, the 1, that. 2, if Joe Pyfer thinks he's going to box with Kelvin Gastelum, he's fucked. Okay? Kelvin Gastelum can box, and he can box defensively. Joe Piper's going to have to land some savage shit to knock out Kelvin Gastelum. I don't understand what this whole thing's like, Joe Piper's going to knock out Kelvin Gastelum. Maybe, but he's going to have to get within range to do it. And we've seen Kelvin box Israel Adesanya to pieces. We've seen him box a lot of guys to pieces. So I don't buy at all that this is going to be an easy fight for Joe Pyfer. Fuck that. Joe Piper is about to get tested like a motherfucker. And in fact, I'm bet you to say Kelvin Gastelum could drop Joe Pyfer here.
I think it could happen, but yeah, this is where we're going to disagree on this one because, when we go back and you look like the matchup I mentioned, Paulo Costa, Johnny Hendricks, what everybody say going into that one? Johnny's moving. He's still got the big left hand. He knocked out Fitch and that's what they were relying on. They didn't necessarily think he could take him to the ground, Paula being so big. I don't think anyone takes him to the ground here. Kelvin Gastelum does have a big left hand like Johnny Hendricks had, but I think this is, well past your prime Kelvin Gastelum. This is not the guy who fought Izzy. This is not the guy who went in there and went to war with multiple guys in the top 15. And I think Joe Pyfer is really hungry. He already kind of got sent back by Jack Hermanson, who's a tricky grappler. I don't think he's going to have to worry about the tricky grappling like he did against Hermanson. And I think that Hermanson might be quicker than Kelvin Gastelum at this stage of his career, too. Hermanson, in my opinion, is a very underrated fighter and maybe the most well-rounded in this division, but outside the champion. But, yeah, I've got Joe Pyfer in this one by knockout, man. And what do you think? You think Kelvin checks his chin and gets him out of there himself?
I think Kelvin submits him.
Submits him.
I'll put that out there for you. All right. Here's the thing. Again, I'm not a Kelvin fan. I don't hate Kelvin either. I'm a journalist. I'm even.
Yeah.
Right? So, and I don't dislike Joe Pyfer either, but I think Joe Pyfer is vastly overrated. Vastly. Holy shit, vastly. Jack Hermanson, Joe? Jack Hermanson, bro? Come on, man.
Jack's good, though. Remember, he was the guy who turned back Chris Curtis, too.
There it is. You just made my point, bro. I love Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis is the dog, but he's the same fucking fighter every single fight.
Jack heel hooked Kelvin as well.
That's cute. Okay. I mean, you're not making a case here, dude. Like,
I'm not saying Jack's not. Yeah, I am. I mean, Jack's not a bad fighter. He's beaten both of these.
You're doing MMA math. I'm just telling you the skill sets here, right? Mm-hmm. So what I'm telling you is, yeah, if Joe lands one of those nasty overhand rights, which he put out, who did he put out? The Gerald Meerschaert? Mark Andre. He put Mark Andre. Like, when he threw that overhand right, I was like, and he lands it, knocked out. Beautifully done, Joe. That's amazing. You're not going to catch Kelvin like that. Okay. Kelvin, and mind you, again, injury, and you're on point with the physiques and all that, and not physiques, but in shape. You could be a fat guy in shape, 100%. But or at least look at Kelvin and be in shape. Kelvin's he's rarely shown up and not looked like he was in shape, right? Yeah. And again, this is Mexico City elevation. Who knows when these guys got there with the work? Who knows, right? But I'd like to think Joe Pyfer got there early, right? Got his lungs under him, because if he didn't, and Kelvin did, right? Joe's in trouble, right? But end of the day, I could honestly see them box for the first round and a half or so, and then Kelvin going, fuck it, I'm taking this guy down. I've seen him get submitted. I'm taking him down. You know why? Because Kelvin can wrestle too. He just doesn't fucking do it. That's the problem. Justin Gaethje can wrestle. He just doesn't fucking do it.
Both of them wrestled in college,
and they just don't fucking use it. Yeah. That's the problem. Okay. Now the thing Kelvin will probably enjoy is if he feels like he has an advantage in the feet, which I don't. In terms of power, no. In terms of combinations and the kind of, as long as he doesn't gas on everything, Kelvin's got the advantage in my opinion. But Joe's not going to shoot on him. He's not worried about that.
No, this is going to be a striking contest in my opinion. But I think after the loss to Hermanson, Joe is going to go on a run here. I think that he's a really good competitor. He wants to win so bad, you can tell. And he does have big knockout power. But we're going to see this weekend, we've got the former power puncher and title challenger in Kelvin Gastelum versus the guy who wants to get to where Kelvin used to be. So this is going to be a good one. Maybe a passing of the torch fight this weekend, or the veteran Kelvin Gastelum makes a statement win. We'll have to find out. But we have a contest here at bantamweight between 145 pounds, between Vince Morales and Raul Rosas Jr. It was at bantamweight? Yeah, 135. Raul Rosas lost to Christian Rodriguez. Since then has looked fantastic, had a knockout win. But Vince Morales is a very game competitor, a veteran of the sport, recently picked up a loss. Vince really had a quick turnaround here. I believe he fought earlier in the beginning of the year. What do you make of this one? And do you think if Vince can keep this fight off the ground, we're going to see Raul in some trouble like he was against Chris Rodriguez?
I think Vince got to survive on the ground. How do you, I don't see him stopping Raul from taking him down.
I don't either.
No. I think the first round is going to be hotly contested. I think Vince might even win the first round if they didn't get, submitted. But I think Raul Rosas is going to find a way to get the fight to the ground. And at that point, that young boy is going to find a way to wrap himself around Vince and then finish him off. That's just what it is. I like Vince. I think Vince is talented, but I think he's a matchup fighter. You can't just throw him against anybody at this point. And so, I mean, Vince, yeah, it was cool that he made his way back to the UFC. And it was cool he took that fight against Lapalus, right? And got decisioned. And then he fought Elijah Smith on his UFC debut, I think, and got decisioned, right? You could be as veteran as you want to be. but you're getting put up against a guy that came off a contender series and you lost.
Yeah, and Taylor Lapis, now you brought that. I think he just signed with the PFL today.
Yeah, he said, fuck it, I'm going PFL, I'm not going UFC, which, again, come on.
Yeah. But getting back to this fight, I agree with you 100%. I think that Raul Rosas gets a submission here. Maybe not in the first round, like you're saying. Vince is going to have a really concerted effort to stay on his feet and try and sprawl and brawl against Raul. But I think Raul eventually gets him to the ground there in either round 2 or 3 and picks up a submission win. And we'll have to see, what his potential looks like moving forward. But certainly someone that is very young and talked about highly at this stage of his career. Is there another fight on this card, Eddie, that really interests you and fight fans should be looking forward to?
Let's see what we got. Martinez Rivera, no. Ronaldo Rodriguez. Borjas. No. Huh? Oh, Ronaldo's the man. Yeah. But this matchup is going to be hot. It is going to be hotly contested. It's going to be a fun fight. Dude, both these guys are for scrap. So, yeah, hell yeah. And then Chirez, I'm a fan of. CJ's cool. Mm-hmm. Christian Rodriguez at the Apex.
That'll be a good one.
Well, I asked him, I was like, hey, man, what do you want to fight next? I want to be in the Mexico City card. And I heard he got cost. I was like, hell yeah, it's a good fight. That's a good matchup. Dude, Christian Rodriguez, I walked into they had weigh-ins at the Palace Station Casino because they're doing renovations at the Apex. And they have this really tiny fucking Starbucks in there. I walked in there, and there's Christian Rodriguez's blonde-ass hair sitting with a fucking big case of water, just sipping on some coffee. And what's up, Christian? He goes, look at me, what's up, bro? The chillest dude ever. It's like he's a cool guy. So I mean, it's gonna be as far as the fight goes. I mean, both these guys can fight like crazy. So and Christian Rodriguez just wants to scrap anybody. Lupe Godinez needs to win. I know she's coming off, I believe, a loss, if I'm not mistaken. So that's gonna be a performance to watch.
Vince from Hell Pichel is back. That's gonna be a scrap. Rafa Garcia comes to fight too. Both those guys have similar styles. That's gonna be a brawl.
Yeah. Robert's a dog. Jamal Emmers, people forget about him. He can still scrap. But he's got a bad motherfucker Miranda, and I don't care about
Austin Hubbard, Streeter, Illinois.
Oh, hey, look, man, I get it. You're an Illinois guy. You should definitely put up with you guys. All right, but he's gonna lose this one and get axed.
Yeah, I mean, Austin looked great on the UFC. What was that? Ultimate Fighter, and I think he was a champion over there in Caged Aggression as well on the region.
No, hey, dude, I look amazing on UFC 5, man. I'm joking, Austin. I'm joking, bro. Yeah. No, Austin's the dog, but he needs to prove that he isn't just like literally bottom of the barrel.
Fill-in guy, yeah. So. Yeah, fill-in guy. All right, fight fans, we're going to bring you guys any breaking news and coverage from over the weekend. We're going to give you our recaps from UFC Mexico City this weekend and also talk any breaking news or fight announcements come next Tuesday. Thanks for joining us.
Wait. Sorry. Before we go. You remember that shit with James Krause?
Yeah, what happened there?
Jeff Molina was suspended for 39 months, so like 3 years, something like that, retroactively. So I think he can come back next year. No, this November. And then the other guy, Derek. So, okay, people that don't remember, the reason that he suspended Jeff Molina is because he withheld that his teammate Derek Minner was injured, and he put a ton of money on the other guy. And then Derek lost the fight.
Molina did?
Yeah.
How did he not get arrested?
I mean, allegedly, right? It's all allegedly, right? So allegedly that's what happened. And so, and this is all around James Krause, who we all know is just
have they brought charges on him yet?
I don't think so. I honestly haven't paid much attention to it. So anyway, so he says, and again, this is just to the fight stuff, right? We don't know about the legal stuff in this story, in this case yet, the story. All we know is about the fight stuff. So suspended until November, cool. Don't know who really cares to see him come back, but maybe he'll end up somewhere. So anyway, so that's what happened with that. And then who knows about charges yet? Derek Minner is what do you call it? He's suspended 29 months, something like that. He's literally eligible tomorrow to return. They're retroactive as well. Again, another guy, whatever, right? So
baseball suspended Pete Rose for his entire life, and we've got dudes actively throwing fights and suspending him 29 months.
By the way, how cowardly are baseball writers? You fucking sexy shit. You sexy.
They're the worst.
Shit.
They're the worst.
You motherfuckers waited until the dude died to talk about him actually getting the Hall of Fame. Fuck you. You're gonna wait till Barry Bonds dies too? All right.
Probably.
Dude, go through all the baseball writers and get rid of all the geezers. All of them. Fuck you guys. We don't
Eddie,
need
you know who's not in the Hall of Fame? Roger Clemens, the greatest pitcher of all time. Barry Bonds, the greatest hitter of all time. The greatest all-round player. Or, one of them, the hit king, Pete Rose, not in it either. So I don't know. It's the hardest Hall of Fame to get into of any of the major sports, whether you take steroids or not, or cheat or not. And some of the greatest names in the history of the sport aren't in it. So,
and it's not even we talk about this because it's stupid. By the way, the Manfred guy that runs MLB, trash. MLB writers, bigger trash. The Oakland Athletics, that whole organization, fuck off. All right, I'm done.
Yeah, and the writers don't necessarily hold Manfred accountable for some of his actions either. But thanks for joining us this week, fight fans. We will be back next Tuesday. Have all the UFC Mexico City coverage and anything else that breaks over the weekend. Thanks for joining us.